Welcome to Lead on the podcast for nonprofit leaders navigating change with intention. Brought to you by CNA. Social Impact Consulting, we explore what it really takes to lead with clarity, courage, and consistency in complex times. No binders, no buzzwords, just thoughtful conversations and practical guidance to help leaders and missions move forward. LeadOn is powered by Notebook LM and produced by CNA, Social Impact Consulting.
Absolutely.
So, for today's deep dive, I want you to imagine something. Imagine discovering that your organization's most confidential donor list, or, maybe even sensitive case files about the vulnerable people you serve, was just used to train a public AI model.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That is the nightmare scenario right there.
Right. And the kicker is, it wasn't a malicious hacker. It was actually your best, most dedicated employee just trying to write a faster thank you note or a grant proposal using some free AI chatbot.
Yeah, that happens way more often than people think.
Yeah, exactly. So today, our mission for this deep dive is to help you, the nonprofit leader, really bridge this terrifying gap between all the AI hype and the actual responsible board governance you need.
Which is so crucial right now.
It is. Yeah. We are looking at this brilliant piece from CNA by Damon Colaluca. It's called Boards and AI, What Every Director Needs to Know in 2026. So if you're a leader who's tired of just surviving and you're ready to actually thrive, this one's for you.
Well, and the baseline reality we have to confront right away here is that AI is already inside your building. Like, it's there.
Yeah, whether you invited it or not.
Right. I mean, the Microsoft Work Trend Index for 2025 recently highlighted this massive surge in shadow AI. Employees just aren't waiting for official company tools. They're bringing their own AI to work.
It's just wild.
So whether your board has officially put it on the agenda or not, the tools are running. They are processing your data right now.
Yep.
And our goal today is to help you move your board from this state of, generalized panic or maybe willful ignorance into a posture of really confident oversight.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I want to actually set the scene of what that panic looks like, since it's playing out in boardrooms everywhere. Picture a classic 2026 quarterly board meeting, right?
I can see it now.
You've got the executive director at the head of the table, and they're proudly announcing that the staff found efficiencies using generative AI. And you look around the room, and the reactions are just completely split.
Oh, yeah. You always have the one trustee nodding along, trying to pretend they know the difference between a large language model and Google.
Exactly. And then another trustee tentatively raises a hand like, oh, wait, are we legally allowed to do that?
Which is a very fair question to ask.
It is. And then inevitably, the board chair just mutters, look, just don't do anything that puts us on the front page of the newspaper.
Yeah, the classic front page test. And honestly, that newspaper comment is the manifestation of the board's most visceral, rational fear. Because nonprofits, they operate entirely on a currency of public trust.
100%.
So when we introduce generative AI into the nonprofit space, we're introducing these amplified, really unprecedented risks around data privacy, copyright, algorithmic bias, and ultimately reputational damage.
It's a lot to manage.
It is. And the harsh reality Damon Colaluca presents in the article is just a dose of tough love. He basically says, if your board's current stance is, oh, we'll deal with this AI stuff when things slow down, well, you are already out of time.
Yeah, it's like realizing your teenagers are already driving the family car down the interstate at 80 miles an hour, while you, the parents, are still sitting at the kitchen table casually debating if they should be allowed to get a learner's permit.
That is a perfect way to put it. The car has already left the garage.
It really has. But, and here's my pushback on this, how can a board actively exercise their fiduciary duties, like specifically the duty of care, if these volunteer board members barely understand how these generative tools even work?
Right, it feels impossible.
Yeah. Are we asking them to audit something they can't even define? Like a black box neural network that even the developers can't fully explain sometimes?
This raises an important question, and it's the exact tension boards are wrestling with right now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The mechanism of oversight doesn't actually require technical mastery.
Okay, what does it require then?
You aren't auditing the algorithm, you are auditing the human process around it. Think about the traditional fiduciary duties from BoardSource. The duty of care doesn't mean you know how to write Python code, right?
Right, thankfully.
It just means asking if the organization is informed about the risks of the tools the staff are using. And the duty of loyalty means ensuring that any tech you deploy serves the stakeholders above all else, not just exposing their data to third parties.
And then the duty of obedience is just asking if the tech aligns with the core mission.
Exactly. So they don't need to build the engine. They just need to set the rules of the road. Yeah. And there's this great framework from BDO referenced in the materials that splits this up beautifully.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, so management handles the day-to-day implementation and the tinkering, but the board provides the strategy, the governance, and the long-term oversight. BDO actually outlines 5 fundamental questions boards must ask management.
Yeah, I have those 5 questions right here, and what really strikes me is how behavioral they are. They aren't technical at all. Like, number 1, where are we using AI today? Number 2, what data touches those tools?
The second one is huge.
Right. And number 3, what are the risks and how are we mitigating them? Number 4, what policies govern our staff's behavior? And number 5, what is our incident plan if something goes wrong?
Let's actually double-click on question number 2 for a second.
Yeah.
What data touches those tools? Because this is where the risk is the most acute.
Yeah, absolutely.
These public large language models, they learn by ingesting the data that users feed into them. So if your development director uploads a spreadsheet of major donors just to ask the AI to identify giving trends.
Oh, no.
Right? They haven't just analyzed the data. They have potentially published it into the training set of a public model.
Which is a catastrophic breach of the duty of loyalty. And, we're seeing this exact tension reflected in the broader sector data. The Salesforce 2025 Nonprofit Trends Report shows that AI addiction is just surging. Nonprofits are piloting it everywhere.
They are.
But simultaneously, the Center for Effective Philanthropy found that while the use is widespread, the concerns about data security, accuracy, and bias are also totally peaking.
Yeah, everyone is running forward but looking nervously over their shoulder.
Exactly. And relying on just individual staff judgment without a board-level policy creates massive, totally unnecessary exposure.
Absolutely, because one employee might be super cautious.
Yeah.
Right. While another is using some unvetted public chatbot to summarize confidential HR complaints.
Yikes.
And that's exactly why the immediate practical tool a board needs is a clear AI policy. It sets boundaries so staff don't have to guess, it protects donor trust, and it creates real accountability.
And the relief for anyone listening who has to actually draft this policy is that the article strongly advises against writing some 30-page tech manual. Oh, please don't do that.
Right. A massive document is just going to gather dust. We need clarity, not volume, like 1 to 3 pages maximum.
Yeah, a good policy really only needs to hit a few specific components. It starts with your purpose and values. So defining why you use AI and what human elements of the mission will never be outsourced to a machine.
That makes sense.
Then you outline risk categories. You name the specific threats like privacy breaches or copyright issues.
But let me ask a practical question for a listener here. If I'm drafting this for my board, what exactly does data governance look like in practice?
What's the tricky part? Yeah.
Right. Like, how do we define what data is a never touch for generative AI without completely paralyzing the staff's ability to actually get their work done?
So you have to define what a radioactive material is. In practice, data governance means explicitly stating that certain categories of information like personally identifiable information of beneficiaries or unreleased financial data, or those confidential donor lists, can never be put into an open AI tool. Okay, so you build a fence around the really sensitive stuff.
Exactly. You create a safe sandbox. You tell the staff, look, you can use the tool to draft an email template or brainstorm gala themes, but you cannot feed it raw stakeholder data. And you also need to outline human accountability. Who is actually signing off on this AI-generated content before it goes out the door?
Yeah, who is double-checking the machine? And we also have to address the underlying risks of the models themselves, which brings us to algorithmic bias.
Yes, such a critical point.
The materials mention Kathy O'Neill's book, Weapons of Math Destruction, which is essential reading for this. If an organization is using AI to, say, screen volunteer applications or identify program participants, we really need to understand how that bias mechanically happens.
Right, because O'Neill points out that algorithms just optimize for efficiency based purely on historical data. AI does not have a moral compass, it just has math. So if your organization's past outreach historically ignored a certain demographic, or if human decisions in the past had hidden biases, the AI just mathematically scales that bias.
Yeah.
It mistakes our past human flaws for future instructions.
Wow, yeah. It just bakes the bias right in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is why having a human-in-the-loop requirement in your policy is non-negotiable. You cannot outsource judgment.
And to help boards actually put a vocabulary to all these risks, the materials point to the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, the RMF.
Yeah, the NIST framework is great. Think of it like a translation dictionary. It gives you a standardized way to map out risks so your board and your IT staff are actually speaking the same language instead of just talking past each other.
Which is so helpful.
And having that shared vocabulary is really the prerequisite for the game plan Damon Colaluca lays out for the very next quarterly board meeting. We know they need a concise policy, but to get them to implement it, you need a highly focused 30-minute agenda edition. Just call it AI Use and Risk Review.
Wait, really? Just 30 minutes to tackle a massive technological paradigm shift?
I know, it sounds crazy, but 30 minutes forces strategic focus. Because the goal isn't to solve everything, it's defining what good governance looks like in 2026. It isn't banning AI out of fear, and it isn't adopting it blindly out of hype. It's systematically building capacity while protecting trust.
Okay, so what are the actual action items for that 30-minute session?
They are super clear. First, the board requests an AI inventory report from management within 30 days. You can't manage what you don't know, so audit the current state.
Right, figure out what the staff is already doing.
Exactly. Second, make AI risk a standing quarterly item, just like you would for financial oversight. Third, approve that simple 1 to 3 page policy we talked about, explicitly banning those sensitive data categories. And finally, establish a vendor checklist for any new software purchases so they meet your privacy standards.
So what does this all mean? It sounds like we're moving from a don't ask, don't tell AI culture, where staff are secretly using it, to a show me the receipts culture.
Yes, perfectly said.
Like, if an employee secretly uses ChatGPT to write a grant because they're afraid of getting in trouble, the organization carries all the risk but gains none of the institutional knowledge. We have to build an environment that rewards transparency over pretending everything is fine.
Exactly. We want staff saying, hey, I found a tool that saves us 10 hours a week, and here's exactly how I verified its data retention policy.
Right. But fostering that transparency takes serious leadership. And executing all of this can feel so overwhelming for a nonprofit leader who is probably already stretched way too thin.
No, without a doubt. And boards don't need more meetings to manage this. They just need better questions and agreements.
And this brings us to how we actually resource this shift. Because we can't just drop these mandates on a burned-out team without any scaffolding.
Exactly. And that's where CNA, Social Impact Consulting, really comes in with their Resolving Day Governance work.
Yeah.
They have this specific AI and data guardrails playbook. It's this lightweight tool designed to help organizations systematically decide, okay, what tasks are appropriate for AI, what must remain human, and what data has to be quarantined.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I love that CNA includes a mini assessment for a digital transformation roadmap before you even get to the AI in that playbook.
Yes. You have to look at the existing infrastructure first.
Because you can't just slap a shiny new AI tool on top of broken organizational workflows and expect a miracle.
No, it doesn't work that way.
If your internal communication is chaotic or your data is stuck in 5 incompatible platforms, AI is just going to help you generate chaotic, siloed work at a much faster speed.
Right. It's like installing a high-pressure water system in a house with rotting plumbing. You're going to have a disaster.
Yeah, you have to fix the basic workflows first.
And the broader organizational design literature completely supports this. The resources point to books like Patrick Lencioni's The Advantage and Stanley McChrystal's Team of Teams. Both of those emphasize that technology just scales your current culture. AI will aggressively reinforce whatever structures you already have.
Oh, that's a slightly terrifying thought.
It is. If your departments don't talk to each other, AI will optimize that isolation.
Which means adopting AI isn't really a technology project at all. It's a change management project. It's a fundamental shift in how we process reality. And that's actually the core thesis of The Age of AI by Henry Kissinger, Eric Schmidt, and Daniel Huttenlocher, which is another great resource for leaders who want to dive into the philosophical deep end.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, when you synthesize all these resources, from the CNA playbook to the NIST framework to Tristan Harris's TED Talks on tech, the overarching goal is to help leaders create momentum without fear. A responsible board doesn't block progress. It builds a custom-matched approach that fits your specific mission and your unique risk profile. And for leaders who just need a low-barrier entry point right now, CNA offers a free 10 Things Every Board Member Should Know refresher. It just establishes the baseline of responsible governance before you even layer AI on top of it.
It all comes back to being informed so you can govern with intention. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the realities of 2026 board governance, I want to leave you with one final thing to ponder.
Go for it.
We discussed the board's very rational fear of ending up in the newspaper for an AI data breach. But think about your organization's most valuable asset, trust. What happens to your mission if you lose that trust because of a secretive, undisclosed AI mistake?
It would be devastating.
Right. Now, contrast that with the trust you could actually build by transparently telling your community exactly how you are safely navigating this new frontier. The tools are already here. The choice of how to govern them is yours.
Couldn't agree more.
That's a wrap on this episode of LeadOn. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, we invite you to subscribe and share it with a fellow nonprofit leader. You can find us on Spotify and at leadonpodcast.com. Until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and lead on.